Nom Nom delivers fresh food with whole ingredients backed by veterinarian science. Science tells us that a dog's health starts in the bowl, so improving their diet is one of the best ways to help them live a long and happy life. Nom Nom's food is full of proteins your dog loves and the vitamins and nutrients they need to thrive. All you have to do is order, pour, and serve. Ready to make the switch to fresh? Order Nom Nom today. Go to https://trynom.com/curveball and get 50% off your first order plus free shipping. That's https://trynom.com/curveball. Plus, Nom Nom comes with a money-back guarantee. If your dog's tail isn't wagging within 30 days, Nom Nom will refund your first order. No fillers, no nonsense, just Nom Nom. Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today, I am joined by professor and singer-songwriter Wally Bartfay, known to his students as Rockin' Prof. Wally has had several songs on several charts around the world. He has one up there right now called Ball and Chain. So we're going to be talking to him about his career and everything that he's up to. So Wally, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, my pleasure to be here, Curtis, and thanks so much for having me on your show. Much appreciated.
Absolutely. Why don't you start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm a prof here at Ontario Tech University. It's located in Oshawa, Ontario, Canada, and you introduced me as a Rockin' Prof. That came about, it's been around that sort of nickname for about 10 years or so, because I like to often begin lectures and so forth to break the ice with a little bit of music, because music is a universal language, and especially for first year students when they're coming in and there's large classes, first time sitting in a big auditorium, big lecture hall. So I use music as a way to sort of break the ice, get everybody calm, get everybody a certain vibe created in class. And then they started to call me the Rockin' Prof. So that's how that particular name started. Yeah.
Okay, well, tell the listeners what you teach.
Yeah, well, I teach, currently I'm teaching a 12-week course this summer, in fact, in public health. I teach public health and epidemiology at the university in the Faculty of Health Sciences over here. I also do research related to, or have done some research related to music therapy and how it benefits patients with dementia. And that's really a personal connection for me, because my dad, who passed away last year, unfortunately suffered from vascular dementia. There's about 100 different types of dementia. And at first you lose your short-term memory, and then it's only the long-term memory. And, he would often forget who my mother was, and they were married 61 years. When she walked in the room and so forth, and we always tried to kind of stimulate his memories with pictures and so forth. And one thing that really helped him connect and make him in a good mood and smile and reconnect with his environment was music. And I used to sing folk songs with him, and then he would start singing, and you can see that his mood and so forth would change. And he would be very pleasant, and you could see the joy, because these songs were often associated with a lot of pleasant memories in his life. I've also done some work here at Ontario Shores Centre for Mental Health Sciences there's a clinical demonstration unit that specializes in dementia. There's 100 different types of dementia. Alzheimer's is the most prominent. Uh, we've done music therapy with them as some sort of baseline, and we try to decrease the amount of BPSDs. And BPSDs is just a clinical abbreviation for behavioral and psychological symptoms of dementia. So once patients start getting advanced dementia, they often have a sundowning where they get more agitated and more nervous, and pacing and aggression and things like that. And the way that they typically deal with it clinically is through medications. And medications have a lot of side effects, especially in in these senior patients. But music therapy is non-pharmacological. There's no side effects. And what we did is, because some of these patients, you can't actually put headphones on them, unfortunately, because touching them sets off aggression or agitation. You can't even put name bands on them, typical patient name bands, when dementia becomes advanced, because they find it very irritating for them to have it. So we couldn't use headphones, but we used parabolic speakers. And parabolic speakers, if you're not familiar with them, they're really directional speakers. You'll see them being used at crosswalks and so forth. So people can't see it or hear the sounds out of that crosswalk, but once you're in that zone, you can pick up the sound. So it doesn't really disturb other patients. You can make it very directional. And we took baseline measures, and we created with their family some playlists of their favorite song. It could be rhythm and blues, jazz, gospel, country, you name it, whatever they liked. And did baseline measures in terms of how many BPSDs they had, and then did the music interventions for 30 minutes at a time, once a day. And then afterwards as well, to see how long the effects were. And music therapy, we found, at least some of the preliminary research we've done, really decreased the amount of BPSDs and the need, for giving medications to calm down these patients. Also, we did cost benefit analysis, so we can save money in terms of staff having to deal with them. We can decrease them, make them, and increase their quality of life. And my first real clinical experience with a patient who had Alzheimer's was back in the 80s, actually, in Montreal, at the Douglas Hospital in Montreal. And I was reading a patient's chart, and her daughter was there. And I noticed that she was a piano player, and she was in a wheelchair, and she was very disconnected from her environment, much like my dad was. And we wheeled her to the piano, put her hands on the piano, and then when she felt the keys, she started to play, and she just played and played and played for like an hour and a half. And her daughter was crying; it was very emotional, and she woke up. She can see the joy in her face that music brought her. And the only reason we had to stop her from playing was because lunch was being served in the other room. So, but that was my first experience with music therapy. So I've also done some research looking at the benefits of music. Not just for listening and giving us pleasure and dancing to and so forth, but also helping some patients with neurological disorders and things like dementia and Alzheimer's disease. So that's a little bit of background for on me, Curtis. Yeah.
So tell us about the type of music that you write and sing. So if somebody listen to you, what can they expect to hear? What genre?
Yeah, so I'm kind of a hybrid. When I was a young lad, growing up, I used to listen to a lot of rock and things like the Stones and Bruce Springsteen and Fleetwood Mac and Tina Turner, who unfortunately just passed away. My mom was a big Tina Turner fan. And in the basement, I used to play air guitar. And I really wanted to learn to play guitar. And I couldn't afford one until I was 14. So I took on odd jobs, working in my uncle's garage, pumping gas, changing tires, cutting lawns, whatever I can do. And I bought my first secondhand guitar for $50 Canadian, and learned it on my own, and some other instruments as well. And so I have some little bit of rock background, but also country, because we listen to a lot of country. Being a Canadian, of course, Gordon Lightfoot We listened to a lot of Gordon Lightfoot, who also passed away this year, unfortunately. Alabama, Eagles, Dunham Brooks, these were guys that were kind of staples in my life. So I would put my genre down as country rock. Yeah.
Okay, well, you definitely talked about some of the influences that you have. That was one of my next questions, but you've had songs on the chart worldwide.
Yeah.
So kind of tell us about that and tell us how that felt.
Yeah. So about 5 months now, I connected with a gentleman called Stephen Wrench and Wayne Killis up at Music and Film, Music with a K, out in Nashville, Tennessee. And I actually met Stephen on Facebook, sent him a couple of my songs, and he, studio recording in that studio in my basement studio. And he said, you need to polish it a little bit more in a professional studio with a professional audio engineer. And he said he thinks he has some potential. So I sent him some of my songs, and we recorded three of them to date. All three of them that Stephen and Wayne did for me, that they produce, have charted. The first one was She's the Boss from Hell. It hit the top 5 on World Indie and Euro Indie. And then there was It's Friday Night, which is still charting right now. It hit number 2 on the World Indie chart 2 weeks ago, and number 5, I believe, again on the Euro Indie. And my newest was just released about 2 weeks ago, a little less than 2 weeks, called Ball and Chain. And Ball and Chain is also charting on both the World Indie and Euro Indie music charts. So I'm quite excited about that. Really excited about that. Yeah.
Okay, well, you talked about the famous person that you work with, but what are some of the other people that have a name that you've worked with in the past, and who do you hope to work with in the future?
Oh God, when I first started to play music, it was actually in Christmas concerts and things as a kid. Something like 10, 12 years old. We were performing in nursing homes in a place called Chateauguay, Quebec. And ironically, that nursing home, we used to volunteer at Christmas time, play some Christmas tunes for the seniors there. And also a lot of veterans were there with my cousin Irene, my sister Kathy, and my mom and my aunts would bake some, cookies and cakes and things for the patients. And that was my really first exposure to music. And ironically, that's where my dad, the same nursing home that we were volunteering during this kind of the first performances that I did, that's where my dad was, and that's where my dad passed away last year too, in the same nursing home. So life comes full circle. And then when I was in my college days, early college days, I had a friend called Danny Arsenault. We used to play in coffee houses quite a bit. Danny unfortunately passed as well. But those were really, really good memories. And then for a long time, I haven't had a lot of live performances because of, school and marriage and kids and what have you, and career. And I really picked up the guitar again during COVID. COVID was a time we were locked up here in Canada and couldn't go out. And I saw the guitar one day, kind of dusted it off, tuned it up, and just started to write songs again. And wrote something like 30 songs, in the past little while. And like I said, in the past 5 months, things have just been on fire. So, I'm really happy about that. Really on fire. Yeah.
You most definitely are. So what do you have coming up that the listeners need to know about?
Well, I'm working on an album, and it's called Timeless. So a lot of these songs have a time kind of component, reminiscing about the good old days, or wish you could go back in time. What would you change if the Lord would give you 5 more minutes? What would you change? So it's kind of like time themed songs. So I have about 8 of them now. I have 4 kind of worked out in the rough, and I hope to record that in the upcoming months. Like right now, I'm busy, of course, with teaching and so forth, but hopefully in the fall I'll have a little bit more time to do some more work with Stephen and Wayne out in Nashville. and produce and release a couple more songs. And so I'm working on an album, Timeless, but there's 3 singles out on it already. So it's a good start. Certainly a good start. Yeah.
Okay, well, so that listeners can keep up with everything that you're up to, throw out your contact information if you have any websites, or how can we listen to your music?
Yeah, I could send it to you, but I'm on everything. So, music's on Spotify, Apple Music. I'm on SoundCloud, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, you name it, I'm on it. So I'm everywhere. So literally just, Google my name and music and I'll pop up, or whatever platform you want to find me on. I'm there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I know that Ball and Chain song is pretty hot, so tell the
Thank you.
listeners about the concept about it. And if you want to do a little sample, feel free, but definitely let us know about the concept and how you came up with it.
Yeah, so ball and chain's a metaphor. So, people have different interpretations of music, but I think of it as a metaphor. It could be a metaphor for your job. It could be a metaphor for a relationship, feeling tied down, like, having that ball and chain connected to you, always being dragged down, always being somewhat controlled, and you need to break free. So that's what the song's about, getting free, moving on with your life. Realizing that you're being tied down and you just need to move on. That's what it's all about. Yeah.
Okay. Well, close us out with some final thoughts that you have for the listeners. Maybe it's something that I forgot to talk about that you would like to touch on, or just any final thoughts you have for the listeners.
Yeah, it's just a little bit more on that music therapy. I think we're just rediscovering some of the benefits of music. I mean, music can make us, cry, it can make us happy, it can make us dance. But this concept of music therapy as a non-pharmacological intervention is really just in its infancy and starting to be rediscovered. And if you start looking at the history of it, the ancient Greeks, for example, used music therapy to promote sleep and pain. Hindu healers and yoga masters, various indigenous populations here in North America and Australia and Africa use singing and repetitive drumming, chanting as part of their healing practices. And even in ancient Chinese medicine is really music is really central to it. In fact, the Chinese character for medicine, if you look for happiness and you look at music, and you look at the Chinese character for music and happiness are actually identical. And the Chinese character for medicine is that particular character with a line on top, a horizontal line with 2 dashes, and that's a symbol for medicine. So they're all connected. We've had this for thousands of years. That this has been in use, and only now we're starting to rediscover it. Some of the other things that music is another form of music therapy is called binaural beat therapy, and their binaural beats are these auditory illusions where if you put on a pair of headphones, for example, in one ear it's 310 hertz, and in the other ear it's say 300 hertz. So the difference is 10. Well, the human ear can't detect that 10 hertz. It's only 20 to about 20,000 hertz that we can hear. But it creates this auditory, sort of illusion in your head. And if it's played over time, it synchronizes with your brain waves and can alter brain activity. And there's lots of different types of gamma and theta and alpha and beta waves, for different states of alertness, and can help us with pain and sleep and so forth. And these are only things that we're only starting to rediscover now. So I think it has a lot of, music can touch us on lots of dimensions, on lots of emotions, on lots of levels. It can make us dance. It can make us feel great. But music is also medicine, for the heart, the mind, and the soul, I would argue. So, music has always been central in my life, and I hope it will continue to be, an integral part of what I'm doing moving forward as well.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, check out Wally Boy Faye, especially that new song, Ball and Chain, is hot. Check out everything that he's up to and gonna be up to. If you have any guests or suggestion topics, cjackson102 at cox.net is the place to send them. Please be sure to follow, rate, review, share this episode to as many people as possible. As usual, thank you for listening. And Wally, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence today.
Yeah, much appreciated, Curtis. Pleasure to be here.
For more information on the Living the Dream podcast, visit www.djcurveball.com. Until next time, stay focused on living the dream.